Hello everyone, this is Aaron from MTGChallengers, and welcome to another Magic the Gathering deck tech. Today I'll be showing off our Jeskai Tempo deck for Fated Reforged Standard. If there was one con that got the most support from this new set, it was definitely Jeskai. It already spawned a variety of powerful and fun decks last season, and I think the new cards will only solidify its position as one of the premier decks in Standard. So this is a tempo build. Basically it has elements of both aggressive and control in it. The idea is to play a handful of just pure value creatures, and then play tons of spells to make those creatures better, remove threats, and just generally get your opponent to 0 life. Most people are building Jeskai tokens right now rather than tempo, but I personally like this a little bit more. So let's begin by discussing the creatures in the deck. First off, I have a playset of Monastery Swiftspear. I think pretty much everyone can agree that this card is amazing. One of the best 1-drop creatures in a very long time. It's a great turn 1 play, obviously, just to be able to get it down and get 1 damage in before they've even played a land, assuming you're on the play, of course. And with all the spells for this deck, it can become very large and very resilient with the prowess. The 2 toughness is really fantastic for blocking against red aggressive decks that are going to be playing little 1 toughness creatures like Foundry Street Denizen and a Crowan Crusader, and it also does really well up against little green mana guys like Elvish Mystic. So say they attack with a couple of 2 power guys, you can remove one of them with a lightning strike or something, which will pump the Swiftspear up to a 2-3, which are just the perfect stats in that situation. Next up, I have 3 Seeker of the Way, another great prowess creature. 3-3 with lifelink for playing just 1 spell is great value, and life gain can be especially important here as the mana base can hurt our life pretty badly sometimes. Also, the 3 toughness puts it out of range of Drown in Sorrow, which can be really important against the black decks. Now we get into the 2 heavy hitters of the deck, the first of which being Goblin Rabblemaster. Running him as a 3-of is great for just general power and aggressiveness on the board. Once you get him going and you're removing their blockers with your burn spells, he can close the game out pretty quickly. The tokens he generates also synergize with a couple spells pretty well. Stoke the Flames can always use cheap creatures to convoke with, especially since you can get around the attack requirement by casting it before attackers are declared. And the new Collateral Damage has the potential to be truly excellent with a steady source of expendable creatures. And finally, we have most likely the best card from Fated Reforged, Monastery Mentor, 3 of him as well. It's still very early, so it's difficult to tell exactly how good it is, but I think it's obvious that he makes Jeskai even better than before. Making a token and having prowess would have been fine on its own, but the token itself having prowess is just really powerful. It's incredible tempo when they swing in with 3 guys, and you respond with a removal spell, pumping it up to a 3-3 and get another blocker onto the field. All of a sudden, their whole board is gone, and you still have the Mentor out there ready to give you value with all your other spells. So that's it for the creature base. Now we move on to the bulk of the deck, which are the spells. First up, I have another new card, Collateral Damage, as a 2-of. I was really excited to see this card in the spoilers. I think it has some potential. It's similar to Searing Blood in that it's either really good or really terrible, depending on your situation. Ideally, you want to have it with Rabblemaster, so you can just sack the token as soon as it comes into play, and either shoot one of their 2 or 3 toughness guys, or just deal them 3 damage directly, which isn't a bad play at all considering that the token would only have dealt them 1. It's also useful just to have a 1-mana burn spell. In cases where the game is a stalemate, both sides of the board are full and you can't get through damage by attacking, so you can sack one of your guys to deal them 3 and combine it with a Stoke the Flames or something to close the game out. Sacrificing a creature can be really bad sometimes. It's just an interesting card that I think has potential. Only time will tell. Next up, I have a playset of Lightning Strike. Almost always just a very solid spell. 3 damage is significant enough for either a creature or their face, and unlike the Collateral Damage, it's a tried and true removal spell. Particularly, it will kill a prowessed Monastery Swiftspear and Seeker of the Way, so it's fairly solid against other Jeskai decks. I also have 4 Magma Jet. Great tempo card, not quite as solid all around as Lightning Strike. 2 damage just doesn't kill as much, but it still can get rid of opponents' Rabblmasters, Mentors, and mid-range stuff like Hornet Queen. The Scry 2 is really fantastic just to do at the end of their turn to take a look at what you're going to draw into and bottom it if it isn't relevant. It also works really well with Treasure Cruise, again to do it at the end of the turn, figure out if you want to draw into those 2 cards with the cruise, and put another spell into the grave to delve with. 2 Searing Blood can be really good for tempo as well. It kills whatever Magma Jet will and deals them 3 to the face, so it's almost like a Lightning Strike and a Magma Jet rolled into 1 when it works. And if it's a larger creature, it can be combined with another burn spell, or just finish off a creature after combat and you'll still get the effect. Only a 2-of, again, because it's very circumstantial, like the Collateral Damage. Next, I have a playset of Jeskai Charm, just a toolbox for the deck. You can bounce something to the top of their deck, temporarily removing it and taking away their card next turn, deal them 4 to the face, which can be enough to close the game out, or give your whole team a buff and lifelink to get you back in the game. And that buff will likely be pretty tremendous, since most creatures will be getting +2/+2 due to prowess. My favorite thing about this card is its interactions with fetch lands, so they crack their Bloodstained Mire or Windswept Teeth or whatever, and you can actually respond by charming the creature to the top of their library, and then they're forced to shuffle it away. Really great interaction there. Then I have 4 copies of Stoke the Flames, probably the best spell in the entire deck. We have the capability to produce a good bit of tokens here, so it's often just 1 or 2 mana for us, and 4 damage to the face, like the Jeskai Charm, can often close the game out. It can also deal with problematic, larger toughness creatures, particularly Courser of Krufix. The life gain and the 4 toughness can really put a block on what we're trying to do. And finally, I have 4 Treasure Cruise. Some amount of card advantage is really important for tempo, and this provides that very nicely. With all of the spells we have in the deck, all the burn spells and everything, we're going to be loading up the grave with stuff to be able to delve, and in the mid to late game, it's almost like having Ancestral Recall in Standard. So that's it for the spells. Let's take a quick look at the mana base. I have 4 Mana Confluence. Can really hurt sometimes, especially if you get multiples, but a 3-color tempo aggro deck really needs the fixing, and as long as you get Seeker out there, you can control the life loss pretty well. Then I have the full 8 Pain lands in the deck's colors, which are 4 Battlefield Forge and 4 Shivan Reef. Like the Confluence, they can hurt, but the fixing is usually worth it. And thankfully, they both have red in them, which is the deck's primary color. I also have a playset of Mystic Monastery, again some more fixing. Thankfully it doesn't hurt us. The deck does want to be quick, but it isn't outright aggro, so it can afford a few tap lands here. And finally I have 7 basic mountains for a total of 23 lands. That concludes the main board. Let's take a look at the sideboard. First off, I have 2 copies of Mantis Rider, a staple Jeskai creature that I just wasn't able to squeeze into the main deck. It does very well on the sideboard though against the aggressive decks, because it's able to race them with the haste and just fly over for 3 every turn, and it has vigilance, so it's still able to block their 2 power guys all day long. Next I have some counter magic. 2 Disdainful Stroke is very good in the format right now to counter all the big things like Polykranos, Elspeth, Whip of Erebos, as well as the new Silumgar, which I think could see some play in blue-black control. 2 Negate is good up against the control matches as well as against the Jeskai Mirror, either against burn or tokens. Keeping their Elspeths, End Hostilities, and Jeskai Ascendancies from resolving is definitely something you want on the side. I also have another new card, Neutralizing Blast, as a 2-of. Gets rid of just a ton of powerful multicolored stuff like Ajani, Sorin, Siege Rhino, Butcher of the Horde. 2 mana to eliminate any of those threats before they even hit the table is very efficient. 3 copies of Glare of Heresy is great side tech as well, obviously just to be sided in against the white decks like Mardu midrange or Abzan midrange, and even blue-white control to be able to eliminate all of their problematic permanents. Then I have 2 more Searing Blood in the side. Again, it's a spell that either works or doesn't, depending on the matchup, and it's great to have copies 3 and 4 in here to bring it in when it would be relevant. And finally, I have 2 copies of Harness by Force. Almost never use the Strive ability unless it's in the very late game, but this can really turn the game around in your favor against the bigger mid-range decks. You take away one of their blockers, trigger Prowess on your creatures, and you get a huge attacking creature on your side all in one spell. And it's also a spell that synergizes really well with Collateral Damage. You can steal the creature, swing in with it, and after you've gotten all of that value off of it, you can sacrifice it to deal them 3 more damage, and almost always win the game at that point. So that's it for this deck tech. Feel free to check out our others. To see these decks in action, check out our gameplay videos. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like the Facebook page and consider making a donation to support the continuation of this project. Thanks for watching, and as always, subscribe for more Magic the Gathering content.